Hello, now I'm going to show you how to run your first bash script. The bash offers the option of storing your commands in a file called a script. A script is just a list of bash commands that you could type into the command line, but it's more convenient to use an editor to edit the file and then just tell bash to run the commands in this file. This is called running a bash script. To start with your first script, go ahead and edit a file called MyScript. So if you type gedit MyScript, we now have a blank script or a blank file to put our commands into. We can simply copy and paste the commands from the other file into your script. Right click to paste. Save it. And before I run it, let me walk through what the script is doing. The first two lines are comments. The first line is actually a special comment called the shebang. This tells bash that when you're running this file, you need to use the program called bin/bash to interpret this file, since bash and the Linux shell can run many different types of scripts. Bash is just one language that is supported. Now, here we have what's called a for loop. So here's the start of the loop and here's the end of the loop. And it's saying for every entry in star. So when it does for each entry in star, which is all the files, it takes each entry, stores it in a variable called a file, and then it runs the command, which is echo, plural of a file is a files. Now in this case, you notice the $sign denotes the variable. However, in this case we're using curly braces. The reason for this is because we have an S at the end of our variable name, which is not actually part of the variable name. If I just type the S here, then bash would have said, I'm looking for a variable called a files with an S, which would not exist, which would be empty. So the way we deal with this is we tell bash the variable name is only a files. So the curly braces simply give clarity. Now that we've saved our script, we can go ahead and run it. But before that, we need to make it executable. So in order to do that, we simply copy and paste the chmod line. So chmod plus x makes the script executable. Before that, it's not really a script, it's just a list of files and a command. When you make it executable, that's when you can actually run it. ./myscript is the name of the script you're saying, telling bash to run the file called myscript in the current folder. And the output of the script is shown after that. And it basically looks at each file in the folder and prints out one line per file. So plural of file 1 is file 1 with an S on the end. It just does this for every file in the current folder. Now, I just told you how to run it. Other things to consider with bash, things that are very helpful, is you can send the input and output of a command to and from a file or to another command. So when you're trying to send the output of a command to a file, you'll run command > symbol and the file that you want to put the output into. If you want to run a command and take its input from a file, you simply use the <= sign. So you'd say command <= and the file name. This is very helpful in several circumstances. If you're running a simulation and it just keeps, it spits out lots and lots of output, but you can't see it, or you don't want to look at it now, but maybe later, you can send the output to a file, and if things look okay, you can just quickly skim through the contents of the output and see if things are okay, see what went wrong, or just keep it in case something did go wrong and you want to go back and investigate. Running a command with the input from a file is very useful because some programs or simulations take their input from the command line. Well, actually not from the command line, but from the input when you run the command. So if you have to run a command over and over, it'd be nice if you have all those input parameters in a file and just say, run the command and take your input from a file. And that would save you from having to retype something into the command. And finally, you can run one command, say command A, and pipe it into the input of command B. So in this case, the output of command A will become the input of command B. In this case, you can see it as like so. If I run my script, and I use the pipe symbol, I'm going to pipe it to a command called less. Less is a page reader. I can use up and down, the up and down key, to scroll through and look at the output. I can also use things like grep. And it works perfectly fine. You can also chain multiple commands together for increasingly powerful command combos.